Welcome to the Berks Homes podcast, the business of building homes. I'm Katie. I'm here with my brother Ben, and today we are talking about lessons in business.
That's broad.
Well, that's how we like it.
Yeah.
We can weave around and meander, talk about whatever comes to mind if it's big enough.
So I think that for me, it's the people side of it. I don't know if you have another thing to start with.
No, go ahead. You start, and I'll follow up.
So I think everybody will have a different time in their career where they have a different set of challenges. I think for us, let's just call it 20 years in, where we have a family business, but for anybody that's 20 years in, they've already overcome certain obstacles as it pertains to perhaps like the technical knowledge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, just like the building blocks of your career.
Yeah, so we'll just stick to our industry in terms of the quote-unquote technical piece, which is many facets, right? So your side is the sales and marketing stuff. My side's more the operations, and they overlap. And in operations, let's just start with the construction side.
Yeah.
So I think the old school way of thinking about how to progress in your career in a construction company is obviously knowing construction, ground up, all that stuff.
The craft, yes.
The craft, yeah. And again, there's multiple aspects in new construction that we can get into, especially on your side. That's only so necessary to a point, right? But we were talking earlier about it's kind of like the cart before the horse. Which one matters more? Well, it's generally easier to acquire technical knowledge than the knowledge of managing people and building a team and motivating.
Yeah.
That's not to say that you can't do them in different orders. And we have seen that.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, the typical employee that would come in here would probably have some technical knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what we were looking for.
Right.
The paradigm has shifted just like the rest of the world to focus more on just getting smart people wherever they're at, knowing that probably the technical side can be kind of learn on the job, some of it, depending on the position.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the whole concept of having a good culture and finding someone that fits in it is, probably not new to business in general, but it would be newer in our field.
Yeah.
We're always behind in some capacity.
In construction,
yeah.
The industry's always behind.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we're looking now as opposed to 20 years ago, we would say, okay, what kind of human being is this? Does it, add to the alchemy of the team? Before we would say, how many years have you been on the job site?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How much do you know about building houses first?
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff is, well, the old way of thinking is the more you knew about building, the more you could manage.
Yeah.
Right?
And that is probably one of the number one lesson.
Right.
Don't assume just because someone has experience in a technical aspect that they would be any good at being a manager.
Yeah, so lesson number one for me was, and I've probably given this example before, but was making that assumption with the production side is an easy example and very relevant, because old way of thinking would be your best superintendent would probably be the best person to lead all your superintendents, be the production manager.
They know the most, so they should tell everybody else how to do it.
Correct. And I made that mistake previously and promoted somebody who was the best superintendent at the time, really good at his job, and assumed that he could also lead and manage other superintendents just as well.
That the skills would magically translate.
Right. And thinking back, I think, the easiest way to do that, it's not just an interview. I mean, especially if somebody's working with you for a long time and you're looking to fill a position, there's a hole or you're creating a new position. But in this case, this is a position that's always here, always available and necessary at the regional level. So looking back, it would be really easy to dig down quicker and figure that out.
Yeah.
And try and pull some of those motivations, like what do you enjoy doing? What's your passion? Tell me about conflict resolution. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
None of those, I didn't really ask any of those questions. I asked some of the more technical things. And it was me that set him up for failure by not knowing that. And I know for a fact, as it wasn't working out and I was trying to make it work, and then through meetings and trying to pull some of that information out of him, it was apparent that it was my fault. Somebody's always going to, when they hear, unless they're incredibly self-aware and really have figured out what their next step in life is, if you throw an opportunity in front of most people, their inclination is to grab it.
Yeah.
Because it's more responsibility, it's more money, whatever it is. So when I look back on it and had some of those meetings, you know, I realized quickly that was just my fault for not digging and figuring it out.
Well, it's interesting with you going there is to say, again, the things that have changed for us and how we think about our business in general is the importance of the HR department.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these things, a lot of the mistakes that we could talk about here, spend an hour talking about HR mistakes because we didn't have a focus on it. We didn't have great people like we do now in place to help guide us through decisions like that. Because that's what they do. That's what they're good at. We can lean on their technical expertise because it is a skill.
I'm sure we are not the only business and or industry that doesn't emphasize that enough.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, you'll see that all over the world in terms of, let's just say, blue collar industries, where it's like the last place you kind of want to spend money.
Which is where you waste so much by not investing in it up front.
When you have a fantastic HR group like we do now in-house, they make the business side that much better.
That has been the most eye-opening here. I mean, let's talk about lessons. Most eye-opening to me is the financial impact that great HR team can put in place for you.
Yes.
Is that rigorous audit of personnel and application, of training to reduce mistakes and costs, of tools to put in place for efficiencies, just from a people perspective.
Right.
It has a massive impact.
Yeah, because if you're really good at the technical side of construction, you're probably not constantly thinking about how can I make my team better? How can they feel better? How can I create a better environment for them? How can I give them the best package of compensation and benefits and time off? You know, that's what a really good HR group does. They're wholly focused on that side, so you don't have to. They're always in your ear. If you pay this person this much, don't forget about this person.
Right.
You know, the equality of pay, you know, across positions and creating, you know, conflicts of interest here and there. There's so many things that go. That's why they have full-time jobs and they work just as many hours as the rest of us.
Right.
They're just focused on that piece. And like you said, that's a really good point. If you have a really good partner and a great relationship with that HR team, you're always going to them like, I have an idea about promoting this person or this position is open here, and I'm thinking about talking to this person and asking them to apply. What do you think? They'll say all these things to you that you didn't think about.
Exactly.
Right? And
so much better.
I mean, we've all done that.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it's nobody's at fault except the person that made the hire, because that just means you didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So that would be my lesson number one in terms of it all starts with people. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we all have that opportunity. We didn't have that opportunity to necessarily create the team around us because our company's been around for 50 years. But as you build out your team, if your company's growing, it's really important to look at what went well in the past and hyperfixate on why it went well. And one of those things, I'll jump on to the previous lesson with the next one, which is you have to really know yourself as a leader.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Self-awareness is like top of the list.
Yeah.
And getting comfortable with what you're not good at
Mm-hmm.
is just as important as knowing what you are good at.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people you hire around you are going to look different if you're doing a really good job of being self-aware.
When you say look different, you mean to make up for or supplement
Yeah.
what you know. If you know this is a weak spot for me, I have to make sure that I have a compliment in someone else to take care of it.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
just like dumping a bunch of rocks in a bucket and then the sand is that fills in is the people that complement your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And only because I have experience in making those mistakes of thinking you want to just get more people like you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get along, or we vibe a certain way,
Yeah.
or we have the same skill set. It's actually, it can be really dangerous to think that way.
Yeah. Something that Dad told me when I don't know, maybe it was one of the first times I was hiring someone. He said, you really want to look for the person that will probably annoy you a little bit
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Because that little flash of annoyance for me typically is, oh, I wish I would have thought of that. Because they're better than you at something.
They're covering your bases.
Yeah, it's just they're shining a light on your, weaknesses, basically going, well, why didn't you do this? Well, because I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thank you.
Right.
You're right. You should do that.
Right.
I appreciate it.
And in the hiring process, you can be pretty transparent about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, and I would encourage it, actually.
Absolutely.
Because if you're self-aware and you're being articulate about some of your strengths and weaknesses, then that gives a really good picture to the candidate, the potential hire of what they're coming into.
Yeah.
If somebody thinks that I'm going to get ahead of them on a daily basis and plan it all out for them, they're not working for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to be okay with some vague direction every once in a while. I'm always going to hit on bullet points, not paragraphs.
Right.
And some people do not like that. And so I think as I've hired a lot of people in my life, I always go into that during the hiring process. If I'm typically hiring detailed people that fill in those gaps for me.
Yeah.
And they understand that I'm not going to be one to just sit down and chat in vague terms for, hours on end. I just want the cliff notes and the decision points and that kind of thing. So, and I have examples of both working really well and not working.
Right. Well, it's almost like you can have, I love good meandering conversation. Look at us right now. We could do this all day long.
Yeah.
Next step, though, is what comes out of it. What's the takeaway? Is somebody documenting something? Or, is there an outcome? Those are the people, I just got 2 fantastic emails, 3 maybe. Michelle's off this week. But basically, if you take Michelle, Stacy, File, and TRG.
Yeah.
And
it's a good email.
the notes that come out of a very good meeting are just, I'm in awe
That's
of
like
the notes.
your oasis in the Sahara.
Yes.
I mean, for me too.
Oh, thank you.
Like, thank you for helping it.
It's exactly right.
For me to be in that role would be, like walking on Legos every day. If I had to do that.
Oh, I could do it one time.
Yeah,
Time.
You did a couple really good when we were, documenting the leadership meetings. And you had to fill in. I was like, that was good, and that's the last one.
And done.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm spent for the next 12 months.
It does take up a lot of my energies.
Yeah. But that's why we have the whole sphere, all different types. So let me go back to that kind of building the team thing in this lesson. It's all about figuring that out quickly will help you so much in the long term.
Yeah.
So we can't all start from scratch, right? People come in to different organizations. Sometimes they're hired as a manager and you get 5 people that report to you right out of the gate. I think the most important thing in that situation is to truly connect, like spend the vast majority of your time with those people, knowing how you're going to get the best out of them and what you need to, kind of manipulate a little bit about you in order to maximize what you're getting out of your people.
And you're talking about from a manager perspective, but it goes both ways.
Yes.
If you're joining the team or you're on a team, it's looking at the exact same formula and saying, okay, what value can I bring? What's my strength here, my unique factor that I can kind of bring to the team and showcase to support everybody.
Right.
Because you can take the notes and distill it down to the main takeaways and the good points so everybody can have a more efficient day. You can ask the good questions. So I usually took that role in any kind of environment that I'm in. I mean, even as a soccer player, the freshman in college, and I will ask the dumb question every time because I'm looking around going, okay, that person has no clue what this drill is. We're going to waste so much time. Why wouldn't I just say, did you mean this or that? And ask and be the one to just speak up and say, I'm not clear. Give me some clear direction to help everybody else too.
Just cut to the chase.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, manager or somebody that's, new on a team reporting to a manager, it's completely relevant. I think the key point is, and this is all fresh because of our new tool that we've been using, 15.5.
Yeah, I love it.
Has been really good. It's just a way that we've been staying really close and connected to those that report to us and who we report to, that kind of thing. And I would just say the effort that you give to that process of your one-on-one meetings and the check-in tool that we have each week, every couple weeks, is so critical to finding that perfect balance of saying, constantly putting forth, this is who I am, and just we're all assuming everybody's giving 100% of the time, right? But who you are is really important to make sure that everybody knows that around you. So they can adjust their expectations or something like that. And I think that really, it's always going to be a much healthier team the earlier you get that out of the way. Especially if you're new.
So wait, lesson number 1 you said was the people.
The people, I would say not assuming that technical means great manager.
Okay.
Right? People managing and technical skills can overlap really well.
But don't assume it.
Got it. And there's probably certain overlaps there in the various departments that we have that you could say the same. Your best salesperson might not be your best sales manager.
Right.
Your best superintendent might not be your best production manager. And quite often, if you're staying close as a manager to all your people, you're going to know that.
Yeah, and you're also going to be able to illustrate to your best superintendent, your best sales consultant, this is why the love of the game that you're in right now should remain, and there should not be an allure for the manager side.
Right.
Because it is different. It is a different focus. If you are that good, the best is you typically not going to be someone that wants to be a manager.
Right. You're already at the top of your game. Why would you try to change it? There's sometimes a conflict there, right? There might be the person who is the best thing in what they do, and they're saying they really want that next level. And sometimes there is that opportunity for the leader to give feedback on why you don't think that's the case.
Right.
And you can have those honest conversations, say, I'm never going to put anybody in a box, right? So I would love that for you. However, you're going to need to do A, B, and C a little better. And one little test, if we just talk about kind of the frontline level of employees who often deal with customers and stuff, it's interesting. Usually the ones that are getting the phone calls from their peers for a while on how to do something.
How to handle something.
They're kind of like, that's like your answer a little bit. Like, okay, they're just a natural leader.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they're good teachers, but that doesn't always correlate either to good people management. Some people, I'm not a good teacher.
Right.
That's just not who I am.
Same.
You know, but I know how to get people in front of the good teachers. So there's not always these hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
But I just keep coming back to the fact that you have to put the time in, the FaceTime with people to know each other really well. And all those answers kind of come out. Yeah. You know, and and you always have to be thinking about what that next conversation is going to look like as it pertains to how can I get you into your perfect life?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you're really clear and having honest dialogue constantly, you guys will get there together. It might not be the perfect life they think of right now. It might point somewhere else through those conversations. Yeah.
Let's see. The next thing that I would add to that from a more internal perspective is, again, taking into consideration knowing yourself. I mean, we start there with almost everything.
Well,
it's
you
so
just
important.
have to keep saying
You have to be, again, it's a reason why we love awareness so much. Because that's kind of the framework with which you'll do anything in life. So and again, looking at it not just from an internal perspective, but also taking in my, sales and marketing perspective, one of my favorite things is to control what you can control. There are so many factors happening at us in this industry, external factors with all the people that we work with. There's so much, we get into that. There are so many things also that you can control yourself. Yeah. So I would say one of the first things that I learned was setting boundaries for myself in terms of realistic output. So again, if you take knowing yourself, controlling what you can control, you have to be very, very clear on what you should and shouldn't commit to.
Saying no.
Yeah. Or the immensity of some of the projects that I tried to tackle when I first started. I think I was telling you this before. One of the first projects that I was given was kind of vague, and I decided what the scope was going to be. Yeah. I decided.
You told the world your scope.
Exactly. Yeah. I might have said this one other time, going to document every single product in the entire selection gallery. That was the thing that changed, Right. That was a huge lesson for me. I don't need to tackle that. Nobody's asking me to do it, so sometimes in your ambition, you don't have to reach that far. Yeah. You don't have to end up locked in the bathroom crying after working on something for 2 weeks.
Like you did.
Like I did, yeah. That was many times, but this was the first time, I think. Yeah. And I think it's important to prioritize and understand what effort is going to have the most positive impact. Yeah. And that's a learned behavior, I think. Some people are probably good at it instinctually. Oh, absolutely. Those are the people that I want on my team too. But I do not have that skill.
They reel you in.
Yeah. I really have to work on my audacity. Right. With every project going, okay, I could get that much done in this tiny amount of time. No, you can't. Calm down.
Tomorrow is not the deadline for it all. Right. Which would be nice in our minds.
Exactly.
Totally, yeah. The neurodivergent mind's nightmare. Right. Is having so much to work on.
That it becomes nothing.
Yeah. And you're right. It can be a learned behavior, though.
Well, it has been for me. I am proof that you can get there, that there's different techniques that you can use to just say, okay, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to get it nailed down, and then it'll build on that with the next. Yeah. But I think that that's something that's a big lesson, is how to structure a project in a way that you'll actually accomplish it in the end. Yeah. How to take pieces of it, put timelines in place, get the little wins in,
Yeah.
You know, and that might be internal only. You don't have to show the world that you've accomplished this little thing. You can
The step in the process.
Right. You can reveal the end product at the end, but internally you've got to kind of lay it out in a way that you know you can tackle each step of it.
You can keep the momentum going by the little wins along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
And you can do that in any role.
Right.
You know,
yes.
you can do that as a detail carpenter with the checklist.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, you can do that with scheduling marketing requests.
Yeah.
And it's just making sure that you're not committing to more than you can produce.
Planning goes such a long way in any organization.
Yeah.
But when you combine good planning with asking the right questions,
yes.
And, you know, that's a skill that, you know, we talk about focusing on your strengths and not on your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Asking good questions is something that we should all strive to have in our tool belt.
Yeah.
Is not being afraid to ask questions, number one. You know, like you said with the soccer example, like ask the dumb question because 100% of the time the other person in the room is thinking it.
Somebody is. Yes.
And the second thing is asking good questions. You have to get past the whole asking any question thing. But the second step is learning how to ask the good questions to point you in the right direction.
Well, you're almost having two different instances with your questions. Asking the question for others and asking the question for the person giving out the information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes, like, I'm talking and I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But no one else is hearing me.
Yeah.
So to have someone ask me a good question so that I can do a better job of communicating is huge.
Yeah. Clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought of Steve Smock. He asks the best questions always.
Yes.
And most of the time they're the most simple. They're basic, but they're really good.
Yeah.
Because it's like just a little clarity is necessary.
Like he just turns the light bulb on.
Turns the light bulb on. Yeah. Shines the light into the dark closet.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I think that when you ask good questions too, there's typically a little energy given to the room because a question generates some sort of, you know, churning in your brain.
Yeah.
You know, so if I hear somebody else, it's like when a speaker is giving a talk and, you know, who knows, big room, small room, but when they say, is there any questions? Well, yeah, we have a lot of questions, right? It's just who's going to stand up there and ask the one that most people are thinking.
Yeah. And
then when they ask it, you're like, okay, oh, that unlocked something for me from this talk that I got 90% of. This guy just unlocked the last 10%.
Yeah.
And all he was doing was he was just willing to stand up and walk to the microphone and ask the basic question that everybody wanted him to ask.
Well, that's a really good point, that you can turn any meeting from a lecture into a collaboration. A lot of the time we have a meeting set up and there's someone leading the meeting because that's what they're supposed to do, and they're just talking, and it takes just one person to turn it into a real collaborative meeting if it's not supposed to be that presentation or lecture. You know, it's supposed to be collaborative, but you don't know how to get there sometimes. You need that person to kind of start the momentum.
Leads me to another point, directly relevant currently, where we decided that this quarterly meeting, we're going to have 3 separate meetings, same agenda.
We're actually going to have 4.
Oh, we're going to have 4. Okay. What's the 4th
Late breaking news.
Oh, cool. I didn't know this.
That's why I called you this morning.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We are going to have one for all of the fully remote employees.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. I just forgot.
Okay. So 4.
So 4. But I do think that in the past couple years we did we always have our annual in-person meeting that's a lot more collaborative, but then the quarterly meetings were just on Teams, and there was a Q&A time, but that, let's face it, that's not going to open up a lot of questions.
Well, I don't even think we had Q&A.
Oh.
I think everybody was muted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there was not even an opportunity for
Right.
collaboration or Q&A or questions at all.
But smaller groups,
Mm-hmm.
primarily in person, with the exception of the remote meeting, will hopefully facilitate, better discussion and open dialogue and that kind of thing. And that's us putting our heads together and trying to create that environment, knowing it's going to produce probably a better outcome than before.
Yeah.
Not to say that we won't do that in the future. It's just kind of like the time right now where we felt like this would be really helpful.
And it's good to change it up. You know, it's sometimes you get stuck. Well, we were talking about this before too. You just do things because that's the way you did it before.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to change it because there's new focus or new momentum or something needs to be shaken up a little bit.
Right. That might be another lesson. So again, going back 20 years ago, whatever, 20 plus, and you're always hiring these people who have been in the industry over and over. And sometimes somebody really rises to the top with their leadership ability, that kind of thing. And over the past, 5 years, we've really opened the doors a little more to not focusing so much on your work resume, your career, but focusing a lot more on the way you think and the way you would fit in on the team.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of people here from a lot of industries now.
Yeah.
And I think that lesson of being open-minded to doing new things or trying something a different way is really, really great. It's been healthy for us.
Yeah.
Because what's the worst that can happen? Somebody's actually putting some thought into trying to solve a problem more efficiently and it doesn't work. That's the worst thing that happens.
So things stay the same?
Right.
That's the worst thing?
I mean, that's a pretty decent worst case scenario.
Right.
It's the thought that counts.
Actually, just got off a call with Cassidy and we were talking about some of those things because she comes from another industry and just kind of picking her brain a little bit about how we can, do things a little bit differently because I know she's got really good ideas and it's so valuable to be able to incorporate some of those things outside of our industry, but even just people with different experiences.
And that's a cultural thing in terms of our business and having the majority of the people that work here are very open-minded. And so we've talked a lot about innovation and putting forth new ideas, not being afraid to fail. And when you say fail, like on a really small scale,
I remember being the young person bringing in all of the ideas, when I had a super savings challenge with our purchasing and estimating team. You win a gift card if you came up with a cost savings that we could put into our scope of work or our redesign or something like that, back in the recession because we're trying to save money. And, every once in a while I'm like, what happened to that ambitious young creative? Now it's like I got to start getting that from everybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's promoting the mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And figuring out ways to give people space to be creative. And sometimes it's just making sure that there are those blocks of time. Either you do it with somebody else, how we try to get together on Mondays and brainstorm.
Yeah. For a strategy session.
When you set aside those blocks of time, you're always if you're really clear about what you're trying to get out of it in terms of some ideas, it can be really productive.
I just have the challenge. Okay, put a pin in that.
Am I doing the shout out this week?
Now you are.
Okay.
You don't have to do it this second.
All right.
We're not done.
Okay.
So let's see. We did people. We did self-awareness to know how to project plan and execute and have predictive controlled outcomes. We have knowing yourself and your teammate, how to turn conversations into collaboration. All those things. Is there anything else that you want to leave everyone with as life lessons, big or small, in business?
I would say, you you can't be really good at something. You can't skip steps. You can't be really good at something really big until you're really good at it really small.
That's so profound.
Yeah, right. I probably learned that from somebody. But I think that and this is more of a societal thing, like it's just everything's at our fingertips. There's always a button to push. There's an outcome that 10 years ago took forever to come to fruition, and now it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
so
the evolution of Atlas, the road atlas, to your maps on your phone now.
Right.
Imagine, like, you had to, like, take it out, unroll the map, figure out how...
Sounding like really old people, but...
That's what I had in my car.
I had a map in the back seat.
That was a gift on our 16th birthday.
That Mom and Dad gave us.
Yes.
Yeah.
To now, you just punch in the address. The end.
The downside of that is, like, even driving places that, like, general areas that I know really well, if I don't have, my directions on, I'm just like, where am I? Like 20 years ago when I started driving, like, I knew more. Is it a lot longer than 20 years, isn't it? Okay. So whatever. 25 years, whatever. Yeah. So
I used to know road names.
Yeah, you don't know the road names.
I don't even know road names anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's total digression.
Sorry. God.
But what were we talking about?
Everything's so easy. You can push a button. Everything's been simplified to the point where I'm assuming you were going to skipping steps instead of...
Yeah, skipping steps is part... You can partially get innovation from trying to cheat the system a little bit.
That's a good point.
You're thinking about efficiency. How can I skip steps?
But you have to have the steps first.
You have to understand the steps.
Yeah.
You have to know how you can accelerate the steps. You can't just jump past them.
Yeah.
And I think that, starting with something basic, just being good at construction, like I used to be a framer for all those summers, doing a good cut. You couldn't go super fast right away. And so when you would cut something, if you would go too fast, it's going to, do this. And then once you acquire that skill...
He made a wiggly line for those people that are listening.
Yeah. It goes left, right, left. Looks like
Instead
the
of
ocean
straight.
wave.
There you
Okay.
go.
And then when you get really good at it, then you can add 2 or 3. I'm thinking of plywood or something. Once you get really good at it, you can stack them and you can cut 3 at a time. Right?
Who knew?
Because you're good at cutting one. And there's so many things in business that apply that applies to, where you just have to understand the small concept in order to, hit it with the lightning speed.
Yeah.
And assuming that you have a good idea doesn't mean that you can just go throw it out at scale.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with the audacity that you have.
Yeah. It's very similar.
That it's laying it out in a way, again, it's the basics. It's the simplicity. It's the reps. Until you have muscle memory on something, you can't skip it.
Right. So this isn't a challenge, but it kind of is. Here's the application for those of us out there. Now's the time to ask the dumb questions. Nobody will look down on you.
Because we're leading the charge on that.
We're leading the charge.
You should hear us in a benefits
meeting. I was like, can you draw that in crayons?
What does it mean?
Okay, yeah. And now's the time to ask those basic questions. Once you master the basic concept, then that will allow you to do the job a lot better and at scale. Right? So
more better, new.
More better.
That's steps.
Yeah.
More better.
Yeah. Good job.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to do the challenge, or do you have a shout out?
Yeah, go ahead, do the challenge.
Okay. So I really liked what you were talking about with collaborating. I think the challenge for me this week would be to grab someone and actually spend some designated time collaborating and coming up with something creative.
Yeah.
Something, now again, this is not in conflict with what we just talked about. This is something where, listen, we put the reps in, we've been doing it this way for so long, but I have a feeling that if you and I brainstorm together, we might be able to make it a little more efficient or get creative with something. And a lot of the stuff that we do is cross collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do one thing without the next department or the next person in line.
Usually a workflow.
Yeah. So that would be my challenge, is to reach out to someone who's before or after you in that workflow
Mm-hmm.
and hash out a process that's working,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fine, but can it be better?
Right. Absolutely. Well, there are no sacred cows.
Yeah.
And I think if I could just keep saying that over and over to make people feel comfortable about challenging some of the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
I would. I would just say,
Yeah.
listen, now let's not upend the whole world
Mm-hmm.
just to get a tiny little improvement somewhere.
Yeah.
Some things just don't need beat up.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to how do we get better every day,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we should embrace
Yeah.
as a department,
Mm-hmm.
as a company,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's really important when you do have a company that is 50 years old, 51 this year,
Yeah.
is there, like you said, there are some things that we don't need to beat up, but because of that, there are some things that we do.
Mm.
Because the foundation might stay the same, but
Mhm.
there's a lot around it that constantly needs to be updated with the times.
Yeah. I have an easy shout out because I don't think we have ever shouted this gentleman out.
Okay.
John Wisner.
Oh, yeah. Great one.
So I can't believe it took us this long. John just celebrated his 35th anniversary with the company. He is the director of drafting. I mean, what do you want to say about John? He's just, so I met him when I was 6, probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's 35 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, 7.
Yeah.
He was in high school as an intern on the drafting team at the old office, which was a ranch home.
Yeah, the original office was a model home.
Yeah.
With the upstairs being the finished model that you could showcase. And then the dingy basement. Is where all the offices were that people smoked in.
Right. Yeah.
And so
in the office.
Yep. In the basement.
So you open the door to the basement and you just get a cloud of smoke. Secondhand smoke. It's wonderful. And John has had this wonderful career of physically starting out drawing homes physically on paper.
Yes.
To learning AutoCAD, to learning multiple, design softwares, to now leading the whole drafting team, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
But John has an incredible skill set of being very detailed, being very organized.
He's the prototype of the person that we're talking about that we want to supplement
well with us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And, just such an incredible company man, cares so much about doing the right thing, about the success of the organization, and, building up people around him. Just has had such an awesome career here, and, still one of the first guys in the morning every day, working hard. And
he
really
made
cares.
Dad's coffee every day for years and years and years.
Yeah. And he's the guy that turns, Dad's sketches into actual plans. Still, he's the first one to lay it out, and, has learned he's giving a lot of feedback to Dad now.
Yeah, there's been a couple of the past designs where he'll come back and
what
pick
if we do it this way?
John's ideas over his.
Yeah. So
at this point.
I mean, I can't say enough about John. I mean, I've known him. I worked for him
in high school.
As an intern. Still work hand in hand with him now, and just, appreciate everything about him.
I mean, he completely exemplifies everything that we talk about in terms of a great fit here. I mean, I just mentioned the other week, oh, can you just send me a list of the plans that have the kitchen laid out like this? And
Right.
the next week I come in, all of them are printed out.
Right.
There's a note attached to it explaining.
In the perfect drafting handwriting
Of course,
that he has.
yes, yeah.
You know, like the block.
Or we want to change this in a kitchen. Oh, I'll just have a 3D model printed for you and put it on your desk, and you can see all 3 options. It's just like, it's so, forward thinking and helpful all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's a one of those perfect examples of the guiding principles all in one.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I guess we need a full episode about John Wisner.
John Wisner. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's only him and Deb with that much tenure here.
Well, how Steve Hart's the next one. But after
Steve's
that,
right
it's a real drop
It's
off.
a real drop off. Yeah. So that's John. Shout out John.
Okay. Have we wrapped it up?
That's it.
Have a great week.
See you next week.